Shit. Was the hardest lesson that I've learned. Now, I'm going to take this as two different kind of questions because what's the hardest thing I've learned as in what has been the most painful lesson versus what, and I think these are two different versus what has been the hardest to figure out, right? Because I think of those two, like, and when you ask me that, I think of two different things, right? So I'll just answer the first one as the most painful, right? What's the most painful and hardest lesson I've learned in the last, I won't even say year, maybe my entire life, is, I'll just say it, you cannot trust people. I don't care what anyone says. You cannot trust people. I used to think, and I used to give in to all these gurus who thought, like, oh, you should trust, and give, like, trust people and da da da, and, be forgiving, right? Especially when we talk about as Christians and, what it means to be forgiving and all this stuff. Here's the basic thing that everyone here needs to understand. Trust should be earned, it should not be given freely. If you're giving away your trust freely, then your trust is cheap. Trust is sacred. And if you treat it as something that is sacred, then you will actually have a strong level of trust with those who have paid the price to earn your trust, right? You and me, for example, I trust you with extreme amount of stuff. You and me trust each other a lot because we've been together a lot. Our trust has been tested, right? But we've also seen quite a lot of people who have been in my circle, who I've allowed into my circle, into your circle, who I gave them my trust. And I used to say this. I used to say, I trust you until you give me a reason not to. From here on out, for the rest of my life, everyone listening to this needs to understand one thing. Do not trust people until they give you a reason to trust them. It is backwards. And anyone who tells you otherwise, I'm warning you right now what you're in for. Because when you give your trust away freely, you attract the snakes. When you give away your trust freely and cheaply, I might add, when you give away your trust cheaply, you attract the takers. The givers attract the takers. This is why giving away free stuff attracts the worst kind of people. Because, we could talk about cruise ship people. People who go on cruises who love buffets, buffet style people. They love the deals, the free shit, right? Look at the crowd that you're going to be in there. Look at the crowd of people who go to Lowe's every Saturday to get free hot dogs, right? I don't know if they still do that, but they used to. And boy, oh boy, that line was a fascinating line. Free hot dogs at Lowe's on Saturdays. Terrible hot dogs, all this. And it was always the worst kind of human beings. I mean, you just look at them and you're like, I do not want to be like those people. So if your trust is the free hot dogs at Lowe's you're giving away on Saturdays, what kind of people are you going to attract to that, right? You attract, a lot of flies with your shit, right? As opposed to actually having trust that must be earned. So that's the number one lesson that has completely changed my life and vision on things is I literally told people, especially people who worked for me, people who were friends with me, I said, I trust you and you have my trust until you give me a reason not to. And you know what that did? That gave them a wide open door for them to say, okay, that means I have one shot to take advantage of this. The people who wanted to take advantage, who planned it, they knew they had one shot because the second that one shot was up, they were cut off. But that means they could take advantage of me at least once. And that is a no-go, especially when now that I have a family to protect, I have a business to protect, it's my duty to protect others. Because when someone destroys you or goes after your trust or tries to backstab you, it doesn't just affect you a lot of times. It also affects those who you are, have a stewardship over, right? Someone affects your business or steals from your business. It doesn't just harm you, it harms everyone who works there. So it's not just about you and your trust that you've given out. No one, especially in today's world, should be giving out trust freely. Okay, that has been the most painful lesson I've had to learn is stop giving away trust for free and start making people earn your trust. And when you do that, your circle of friends, it will be small, but it will be powerful. That's the difference. And that's the difference of a leader who runs with a small group of friends, right? Like eagles fly alone, that whole bullshit, right? Pigeons fly in flocks. And you know what? And to a sense, is a great analogy because all in all, you're not supposed to have a lot of people around you. A friend to all is a friend to none. The person who has the largest social group is usually the weakest mind. When you have a strong mind, you stand for something with high morals and standards, you have a very, very small friend group, and that's just naturally going to happen. If you stand for something, if you fight for something, and you're for the top 1% in the hierarchy of how things, operate in the kingdom of the world, right? you're going to have a small circle. And you should have a small circle. But if you give away your trust freely, that circle will be a very cheap circle. Give away your trust only to those who deserve it, who have earned it. People should fight to earn your trust. And that is the biggest and most painful lesson I've had to learn.